It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
All right, so Brian, we've talked about the millennials and said, they probably shouldn't worry about it all that much. And then Gen Xers, they say they probably shouldn't worry about it so much, but the inner voice causes them to worry about it. But then there's the next generation. Then there are the boomers. And I think that these are the ones.
By the way, I call them baby boomers.
These are the baby boomers.
I mean, I've been called a boomer. My daughter uses that term when they're totally trying to make somebody who's even older than me, but they group me in there somehow. Like, way to go, boomer, or something like that. It's become a derogatory thing. So, I just want you guys to know, I called it baby boomer. Bo was the one that said the word boomer.
All right, so these are the folks who are starting to think, oh, okay, now if the Xers didn't have time to recover from something crazy, I really don't have time to cover. So surely millennials don't need to be making a lot of changes. Xers don't need to change that. Surely I, as a boomer, need to be making changes, right?
Well, baby boomers are retiring. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're not in the batter's box anymore. They've actually stepped up to the plate. Yep. This is game time. So I will tell you, if you're one of these people that is quickly approaching retirement or at that threshold, you better be stress testing your portfolio to make sure you do have it appropriately reflect what is needed for the long term. It's so easy to do that. That's the part when we talk about the abundance cycle and graduating. I had somebody give us a negative comment, said, all you do is talk about accumulation. I'm like, yeah, on the YouTube channel, but if you actually work with us, we work with clients 42 states. This is exactly what we help people. This is what you're supposed to graduate to the next level so we can add that sophistication. Because guess what? Guys, I can't give you one size fits all for every 40 to 65-year-old on what their allocation looks like, what they should be doing, because every one of you are different. You live in different states. You have different risk profiles. You have different incomes. You have different asset accumulation levels within all the different accounts. We can't do content that covers all of that. It's much easier to get you excited about saving. Don't skip the rest of the abundance cycle. If we get you to that level of success, that's where, and then don't get mad at us because you're not willing to take it to the next level.
So I think one of the things that people always say is, well, I can't control what happens in the year I retire. I mean, the biggest risk is what happens if I retire and 2008 happens. And you're right, that is a very real risk that exists. So one of the things we think you ought to do is you ought to stress test the portfolio before you step away from the workforce. If you're not running through Monte Carlo simulations, and if you're not saying, okay, what happens if I retire and the bottom falls out? Then you're probably not asking the right questions just yet. Because one of the things we try to tell our clients when they retire is, hey, even if you retire at the world's worst time and this happens, because of the planning in place, because of the way you've built your portfolio, because of the steps you've taken, you're going to be okay. You can weather a worst case scenario because we've stress tested it. So you want to make sure you know that you are exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, this is when you definitely better be sharpening up that plan to make sure it reflects everything and this is not just all the analytics either, Bo, because I think this is a key part. If you want to be successful in retirement and make sure you have the life that you've always planned for, make sure you're spending some time on those soft questions.
Oh, huge.
I mean, because this is a big thing. I want you to know what you're retaring to, not just what you're retiring from, because I think that is a big, big mistake that a lot of people make. We have done shows with Fritz from the Retirement Manifesto. There's a lot of talent and a lot of time that you need to spend and resources on making sure you know exactly where you're going in retirement.
And have the other question to ask is, have I made the appropriate shift, the appropriate adjustment as I prepare to move from accumulation to decumulation of my risk to non-risk assets? And a big piece of that is, do I have the appropriate emergency reserves? If I know that I've got 18 to 24 to 36 months of living expenses in cash, I don't care what the market does in the next 1, 2, 3 years, because I know that I have enough risk-off assets to cover my living expenses, to give the market time to do what we just saw on the slide at the beginning, what it does. It's going to recover. It's going to come back. You just want to make sure you have enough time that you can let your assets recover and come back.
Well, and I think that you just said something that's a key point. While you're an accumulator, it's very common that your cash reserves is 3 to 6 months. Mm-hmm. However, once you're living off of that money, once your assets have become your pension, because that's what more and more people, when we get a brand new retiree, they go, how am I going to get this money? I'm like, how did you get paid each month? They're like, well, I got a check on the 15th and I got a check on the 30th. I'm like, That's the way it'll work in
set it up
retirement.
that way.
We're going to set up an automatic transfer either once a month, twice a month. You tell us how you want it, and we're going to do it Burger King style your
have it your way.
I mean, it is definitely the way we structure things, but there is a key adjustment. Instead of 3 to 6 months cash reserves, it's not uncommon once you live off this money that you start having 18 to 36 months of cash reserves, because what you don't want to have happen is you want to have enough time to be able to pass with wherever we are in the economic market cycle, that you have liquidity and you're not selling assets at the world's worst time.
Yep. So if you are in this stage of life, it's not bad to make adjustments. It's actually appropriate to make adjustments. That's how you know you're doing what you're supposed to doing. But you want to make sure that you're making plan-driven financial decisions, not emotional financial decisions.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, the election should not impact your financial decisions.
That's right.
Now, there might be some short-term ripples from this, but it does not mean that you necessarily need to do an apple cart turnover if the plan was good. Because we say it all the time. We do a lot of investment commentary, and we say if your plan was good before this, it was good during this, and it's going to be good after this if we've done it right.
That's
so just
exactly
make
right.
sure that you do have the right plan. So it's really an all-weather type structure and not just set up for sunny days.
So hopefully you're someone out there, whether you are early on in your career or later on in your career or getting ready to, you've kind of seen, okay, here are the things that we should do to election-proof our finances should something uncertain or scary or bad or negative come our way. But perhaps there's more to the story. Perhaps it's not all, oh no, pending, scary election stuff. Maybe there's something else we ought to be thinking of.
Well, I wanted to close this show. 2 things. We're going to close it next with some planning things, but I wanted to give you an optimistic outlook towards the future so you too can leave this being an optimist. And I have set this up horribly, because if I had to do this all over again, we would slap up there that illustration that FTE Daniel did that had all the presidents, had the S&P 500, and here's what you saw. Markets go up. It doesn't matter who's president, markets go up. So then you have to ask yourself, why? Why do markets go up? And that made me think of something. We've covered this on a show, but I love Spaceship Earth at Epcot. And I had Daniel.
Hard left turn.
I had Daniel put together something, because I want you to see inside my crazy brain, my crazy dyslexic brain, so you could figure out how you too can harness his power. And this is the way it works on Spaceship Earth. You realize how slow humans have evolved. I mean, we are, look at that. What do we have there? We got some pyramids. We got some paper.
We got papyrus in 3000 BC. We got some pyramids in 2500 BC.
So wait a minute. That's BC.
That's BC. That's
now what happened between BC and 1000? It looks like nothing.
Not a whole lot took place.
We're just hanging out, reading some paper, and writing. You know why? It's because we're transcribing everything. It takes a lot to write at that point.
All right. So then we keep going. And then in 1440, we have the printing press is invented. And then we have the cotton gin in 1793. So we've covered a lot of time, not a whole lot of technical innovation taking place, right? And then we turn the century,
look at
and then
this.
it changes.
And then look what happened. I want you guys to think about it. We've gone from, and my daughter is a junior in high school, and she's studying kind of the industrialization of America.
Sure.
And I think of that history,
the men that
the
built
History
America.
Channel, the men who built America. And you think about Henry Ford, you think about all the big innovations, Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, and all the stuff that's going on. And then look at this, guys. I mean, we go from automotive, adding cars, adding flight, adding radio, adding TV, putting a man on the moon, computers, World Wide Web, cell phones. Now we have Teslas and electric cars. That's not a part of the Disney ride.
That's not in the Disney ride.
No, that's very Brian-esque.
That's the Brian Preston ride.
But it is, I want you guys to know, here's the thing. I talk about, and you've read this, talk about Moore's Law. And Moore's Law, for those that don't know, is that there was this phenomenon that people noticed that transistors every 2 years were doubling. So essentially computer capacity and the affordability of computers was getting better every year. Well, one day I was like, you know what? I feel like that is what's going on with innovation in general. It's not just limited to transistors and microchips. I feel like everything is accelerating. So I pitched this in a show meeting, and then Daniel goes, oh yeah, that's law of accelerating returns. And I was like, law of accelerating returns. And sure enough, Daniel goes and pulls the information, because I'm not the only one that came up with this idea, is that this is something that's going on, guys. If you think that things are moving fast, you can't even fathom. I mean, if you look at that chart, and like I said, we've set this up horribly. The rise of what happened to the financial markets while we had President Bill Clinton in place looked like it was going to blow your mind.
Sure.
And you're like, well, this has got to be the best time ever, is because we've got the World Wide Web and, and everything that's going on there. And then you fast forward under President Obama and President Trump before we hit this pandemic, and you're like, holy cow, it kind of eclipses what happened under President Clinton. And guys, this is innovation. You think about all the things that are going on right now. Look, we have people in the medical space, and you think about what they're working on, even in this pandemic with vaccines. Do you see how fast things are moving?
A lot quicker than it has previously.
Things are moving so much faster than any other time in history. It's not going to stop. I mean, while I'm doing this, the creepy robots that are around us. My phone on my watch is ringing. We had, by the way, while we were doing this show, we have, and I hate to say its name because it will wake up and listen, but it's the Amazon listening device. We'll call your phone.
Yeah.
It volunteered to do that, which was really creepy. This is not slowing down. Look, this show started. It's right behind me. That is my actual iPod that I bought in 2005. I did this show and started in 2006 as one of the original podcasts. And look at us. We've even evolved where we have a studio full of cameras. Yep. This is picking up speed. So make sure you don't look at the world glass half empty. There's a lot more good stuff that's coming. As long as we don't invent Skynet, we're going to be golden. So you can't even plan for that. So just be positive and know that things will be better no matter who's president, no matter who's in Congress. I believe, and I'm betting on humanity.
I think that we have more exciting times ahead than behind. I think that we're going to see a lot of innovation continue. And I think that so long as we live in that world where that's happening, folks who are willing to give up a little bit of today and they're willing to invest in that innovation, that are willing to defer gratification, they're willing to make those types of financial decisions, they're going to be rewarded for that long term.
So I did want to close out with 3 key points.
Okay.
This is how to kind of election-proof your financial life. These are some of the big takeaways. You need to have a plan. Don't be reactionary.
Love it.
Go ahead and be proactive. Have a plan. I hate to keep coming back to it, but this free resource right here, if you'll go to moneyguy.com/resources, the financial order of operations is going to help you out tremendously. So respect the FOO.
And I'll even throw out there, if you want more than just the free resource, do a deep dive. Go buy the course, learn.moneyguy.com. It'll take you even a step further than just the free resource.
And then the second thing, know your emotional blind spots and trigger points. This is a big one. If watching the nightly news, because there's so much noise out there, there's so many people that are trying to keep your eyeballs, your ears, and those type of things engaged so they can sell advertising, and they know that fear is a big driving factor in that. Maybe you don't need to watch those shows. Yep. Take that off the table if you know it stresses you out and causes you to react instead of have a plan. And then the third thing, take time. This is an important one. Just like I was talking about those soft, emotional things that you need to nurture your spirit, you need to nurture your outlook. Take time to inventory the good stuff in your life. Make sure you're focusing on family, friends, and then those ever-expanding and those blossoming memories that you can build for yourself in your future. That's what you ought to be spending your time on. I know it's easier said than done, but if you will follow everything we covered in today's show, I think we can all look back 6 months from now and go, we made it through it.
Absolutely. We don't know what this election or any election is going to hold. We don't know when dark clouds are going to come, but here's what we're committed to. We're going to keep doing this show. We're going to keep putting great information in your hands, in front of you. If you haven't had a chance to go to our website, go to moneyguy.com/resources. It is all available out there for free for you to help you take your finances to the next level.
Man, I love you. Even close it out with some abundance cycle. Work with clients in 42 states. If you feel like you need to take your relationship to the next level because you graduated the abundance cycle, don't forget the Money Guy team and Abound Wealth. I'm your host, Brian Preston, Mr. Bo Hansen. Don't forget to subscribe. We just crossed 80,000. Can you believe that? I mean, it feels like we were just at 70. I mean, this thing's moving. So if we're going to reach 100,000 by year end, I need you guys to subscribe. So go check it out, moneyguy.com. go to YouTube, go to iTunes, go to Spotify, and make sure you're going and taking advantage of the free stuff at moneyguy.com/resources. I'm your host, Brian Preston. We're out.